Come here, buddy. So not every dog is fortunate enough to have both testicles. So stay tuned for this episode of Breeders' Hacks. We're going to be talking about dogs that are born with one testicle or no testicles, cryptorchidism. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this episode of Breeders' Hacks. All right, guys. What's going on, Bully fam? It's your boy, the educator, the scientist, Mr. Double Muscle Iron Bulls, bringing you another episode of Breeders' Hacks. So today, I wanted to talk to you guys about cryptorchidism. It's basically when the dog is born with like one testicle. Or let me rephrase, only one testicle drops. Come inside the lab and we'll talk about that today, all right? Cryptorchidism, right? So typically, that's when a stud dog, a male dog, where one testicle drops and the other doesn't. It's rare, but it does happen. I mean, from what I've read in the small endocrinology and reproduction, can be in every breed. So it is a defect, but it gets even crazier. Some dogs, their testicles don't drop at all, and they have essentially no testicles. So this is really harmful. This is really bad if we're breeding dogs, because we obviously don't want dogs that have one testicle. They may not be able to produce enough, or that we have dogs that the testicles don't drop at all, because essentially the worst case scenario is the testicles that don't descend actually can become cancerous. But I'm going to share with you guys, I had it happen to me before. I'm going to share with you guys my experience, what we did, what worked, what didn't, so on and so forth. So like I said, I was just quoting kind of like the definition in the small animal endocrinology and reproduction book. So essentially, from what I've read, that the testes, or the testicles, sit up here in the abdomen, right? And as the male dog gets older, there's a ring here, right? This ring right here. Once the dog, starts to mature and so on and so forth, these testicles will drop right here into the sac. I know my drawing is atrocious, but you guys get the point. So hey, at least it's not stick figures. So anyway, guys, let's fix this. So the testicles drop down into the sac, right? But what happens is, with a cryptorchid dog, only one testicle is in the sac. The other one did not drop. Or I forget the name of it. I think it's like monotorchid or something like that. Don't quote me on it. Where actually no testes drop into the sac. So they're still in the abdomen. So what happens is, like I said, they can turn into cancer if you don't get them to drop. So in my experience, when I had a dog that actually had it, my first experience, the vet highly recommended, hey, this is not breeding stock, neuter the dog, so on and so forth. And me not knowing any better, I mean, that's what we did. So as I became friends with, head of reproduction and genetics over at one of the universities, she had told me about a study that they had did overseas that was somewhat helpful in what we did, right? So now I came into it again, right? And I remember from the conversation I had with her, she had told me that you could use Gonadorelin, right? So she had told me about the study on Gonadorelin and how it could potentially help stud dogs with dropping their testicles down. So before doing any research, everything that I found pretty much said you need to neuter the dog. Well, when I eventually, a few years ago, I came into a contact with another dog that had cryptorchidism, where only one testicle had dropped. Well, I had, taken the information that she had shared with me, and we were like, hey, can we try using the Gonadorelin like you had referenced? She hooked me up with some Gonadorelin, and next thing you know, after the days of treatment, giving the dog Gonadorelin, the second testicle had dropped.
Oh my God! Wow!
Now, what you need to be mindful of is it's not going to work every single time, and there's certain particular reasons why. So to my knowledge, one of them being, if the testicle is severely underdeveloped, that might be a reason. And there's really nothing you can do about that if it's severely underdeveloped, right? Another thing can be, and this is probably one of the most important things, is that the dog, if the dog's testicles don't drop, they say a year. Me, I say anything between 4 to 6 months. The reason why you would want to get a control of this by 4 to 6 months and not wait till a year, like what other traditional vets would say, is because of the fact that the testicles are up here in the abdomen, right? The testicles are up here. the ring gets smaller. So the ring started out this size, now it's this size. So now this is our sac, right? The testes can't drop through this ring because it's so small. And this closes around that 6-month period. It can be all the way up until a year, but I don't like to take any chances. So typically what I did that worked for, I would say maybe like 50% of the dogs that we did come in contact with it, which wasn't a whole lot, but we did 2 things. We would try to, if you could feel the testicle up in like the abdomen or a little higher than the sac, you try to massage it down, you know, every day, massaging it down, trying to get it into place in hopes that as it starts to close, if the testy is down here, it's not gonna go right back up. So essentially massaging it down into place, as well as, and I've done that just sometimes on some dogs, and that was a little bit helpful. That with using the Gonadorelin, I mean, it helped. One dog that we used it and it worked. I have heard of other people using it and it not working. So in my opinion, it may be like a 50-50 thing, but it really comes down to, are the testicles fully developed? You know, what other underlying issues are going on? But that was a treatment that we used, like I said, Gonadorelin and massaging the testicle down into place. And we took the dog that was cryptorchid, and he was no longer cryptorchid. Sometimes from the talks that I had with the head of genetics and reproduction, she was explaining that sometimes they don't know exactly what causes cryptorchidism. So it could be a birth defect. It could also be maybe something that's hereditary. It could maybe also be something that might be environmental, or all those 3 things are taking place at the same time. There's different things as to what could cause the cryptorchidism. So I'll do those 2 things. And if those 2 things don't work, then in my opinion, I mean, if the dog has like 1 testicle, I don't personally breed those dogs, but I do know people who have gone on to breed those dogs, and those dogs didn't go on to produce it in their offspring. So it's really more of a personal thing as far as what the breeder feels is right in that aspect. And then obviously if both testicles don't drop, I've had people who wanted to pull their dog to see if, you know, the dog was producing any semen. Almost every time when the dog's testicles haven't dropped and there's no testicles at all, there's usually no semen there and there's nothing that you can do. If you get a dog from a breeder now that has this issue, the breeder should definitely make it right. They should either supply you with a new puppy, especially if you planned on breeding the dog yourself. Now, as a breeder, if you produce this, then you can go ahead and try out the things that I that I said and so on and so forth in the video. But if you bought the dog like this, then you should definitely take that up with your breeder, and your breeder should make this right by supplying you with a new puppy that's not defective. What I'm looking for is around like that 3-month mark, to be honest. I want to see some kind of testicles there. And that's why, like, when I go to buy a dog, if I go to buy a stud, the first thing I'm checking is if they have testicles. Because believe it or not, I know breeders who bought dogs and they're like, yeah, the dog's testicles never drop. I would say around like 3 to 4 months is when you should see them there. Like I said, for me, I like to see them in the sac by 6 months. If not, like I said, if not by like 3 to 4 months, I'm already starting these measures to ensure that the testicles are in the sac. Otherwise, like I said, by 6 months, if they haven't dropped, I'm already considering this dog cryptorchid, and either the dog is gonna get pet homed or whatever the case may be. Like I said, some breeders, they will breed the dog with 1 testicle. I don't do that, but I mean, to each his own. But like I said, I have gone on to see dogs who had 1 testicle and they didn't produce it in their offspring. So I know some people will say, well, this is a hereditary thing, so you shouldn't breed these dogs and you shouldn't pass it along the gene pool or the bloodline. But yet again, like I said, seeing it firsthand and hearing from a highly respected vet, you know, she said some of this may not only be hereditary, it may be environmental. So if you can, you know, massage the testicle down and maybe give a little bit of Gonadorelin, then in my opinion, you know, then the dog may be still a good breeding stock to use, you know. But yeah, like I said, this ring, so now this ring can stay open up until a year from what the vets say. It can be up until a year, but for me, that's like the chances are so slim of the testicle dropping at a year old. I don't even wait that long. It's just so slim because, like I said, this just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, that ring. And actually, when you're feeling the dog, the testicles, you can kind of feel like you could actually feel like the testicle pop back up and stuff too. It's weird. You can, like I said, you can feel and you can tell. So this is just my experience. Like I said, I found that the Gonadorelin and massaging the testicle down is like a 50-50 thing. Like I said, I agree with what she was pretty much saying. I think it depends on, you know, if it's environmental or if it's hereditary. They don't quite know what causes this, but those are just some treatments that, like I said, has worked for me that you can try using and getting that testicle down, because the Gonadorelin essentially is like a hormone. It's like a reproductive hormone, and it helps, like I said, bring it down as long as it's not like underdeveloped or something. And then finally, yet again, you would have to remove it. Like regardless, even if the person, I'll play devil's advocate and say, even the person who keeps the one testicle and wants to breed the dog, I would still say, get your breedings out, collect semen off of the dog, and then go ahead and neuter the dog, you know, so this doesn't turn to cancer. Because the vets will say, oh, you know, this is going to turn into cancer, so on and so forth. But it takes time to develop. That doesn't happen overnight. So don't freak out if your dog has cryptorchidism. You have time. Like I said, they give you up to like the first year anyway before they actually consider it cryptorchidism. So yeah, this is just my experience, guys. I hope this information is helpful. I hope it's useful. And if you guys want to learn some more, like yet again, you can get yourself like a veterinary manual that, you know, talks about endocrinology and reproduction, as well as if you want to learn more about Gonadorelin. You know, I'm a huge advocate for the veterinary drug handbook. Check it out. So like I said, guys, I'm not your vet, don't sue me, but this is just my experience as to what I've dealt with when it came to cryptorchidism and how it played out, how it worked out, and just kind of my thoughts pretty much. So anyway, guys, hope this information is helpful, hope it's useful, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of British Hacks. All right, guys.